In a relationship, that's the one person you can be your full self,
Right.
and should be able to. Like, we're
If
in
you
it
pick the right
every day.
person.
We're in it every day together. Like, this is your person. We sleep next to each other. Like, we gotta have that. But I can be just blah, because you accept me, right? And that's what I've had to overcome, is the acceptance of what I see maybe sometimes as flaws, or, you know, sharing emotions or thoughts that I have, not being judged, being accepted and still loved and open, that you just, all you care is that I'm sharing. Right?
It makes everything better.
It does.
It really does.
I mean, say it, sex life, it makes everything better. It makes our kids and our relationship with our children.
Everything's better.
Everything's
with
better.
communication.
And I think the key thing about therapy is, like, it's just this time to take a pause and slow down. And early on in a relationship, most of us aren't sharing everything. You're trying to you're trying to lure that person in. Right. So you're going to say all the things that's going to lure that person in.
Totally.
And then you get your flow, and then you become a relationship. But we're still operating the same way we've always operated, even though all these big things have changed. Welcome back to Over Dinner. What started out as conversations about relationships, parenting, personal development, and the human experience, Over Dinner turned into this podcast.
It sure did.
Sure did. I'm Jarrod.
I'm Dr. Nikki.
We usually say that before, but for some reason I went into the intro first.
Well, and then what I was thinking about was literally we still talk over dinner about all of these things. Like tonight specifically, we were talking about belief systems, not religious belief systems, but more so about our own infrastructure, because I'm trying to really start to beat down some of these limiting beliefs.
Beat them down.
But and so
it's cool.
What I just think is great is, like, this was what we were already doing. Mm-hmm. Now it's this, but it's still something that we continue to do.
I think it's just, now that we're like, I think because we do it so much, not just at dinner, but we also do it during this, it's just kind of like we're having good conversations
all
a
the
lot.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sometimes.
We hang out a lot.
Yeah. It's great.
He lifted his eyebrows.
It's great. I love you deeply.
I know.
Yeah.
Ditto.
But what we had to dinner tonight, let's get into that, because you jumped into, which I think was a great point you had.
Yeah. So what we also talk about, if you are new to this podcast, is every week we discuss what we had over dinner, which was requested by our listeners. And so you can also find the recipe on the What Nick Knows blog, always linked in the show notes. Yep. Tonight, we did a balanced meal because some of it was very healthy and the other half was definitely not.
It was really good.
It was delicious. Yeah. And we don't believe in good food and bad food. That's a whole other episode, and we'll leave that.
Whoa, you went there.
I did. But we had, I just wanted to, like, caveat in the sense I said healthy, not healthy. But Jarrod made grilled chicken.
Yep.
Broccoli. And sweet potato.
Yep.
It's very basic and yet super satisfying, because I feel like the protein is great. I love it. It's all really good. And then we made a peach cobbler from peaches that we picked ourselves from, what's that place called? Southern Bell Farms in southern Georgia. It was delicious. I've never made a cobbler like this before. Normally I make cobblers and, like, it's more piecey. This one was more cakey, spongy.
We'll put the recipe, but we thought the reason might be we didn't put regular milk
whole milk.
We put in almond milk, so that could have played a role in it.
Yeah, but it was still delicious.
Yeah. I kind of related it to a peach bread pudding.
Yeah, I could see that. A bread pudding, for sure. Yeah. It was like
still,
kind of the texture.
I mean, and then we just, like, the ingredients you put in it, no matter what it turns out to be.
Butter, sugar.
It's going to be delicious.
You're going to be fine.
So it's good.
And we paired it with Cocoa Whip.
Yep.
So that's what we had. They'll be linked in the show notes.
Cool. So, if this is your first time, please subscribe, follow us.
Leave a comment,
interact.
Connect with us on Instagram.
Yep.
At Over Din Podcast.
Over Din. We couldn't get dinner. We had to go over Din. That's what was left. But I think it's cooler.
Yeah. We're like trying to be like Gen Z.
Yeah,
or Gen X.
Abbreviate all of it.
Yeah, they do abbreviate all of it. Actually, I saw the funniest reel the other day of I think he's a songwriter or some sort of creative individual, and he has a daughter who's, what is the generation after Generation Z?
I can't follow that.
Okay, whatever. Let's just call it Generation X. I really don't know. But
please correct us.
Yes, please. I don't know. And I'm not. My phone is videoing things, so I can't even look it up. but he is asking her every single thing. Like, how do you say this? How do you say
like
that
an
in a Gen X? And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, not only are they abbreviated, but they're just like,
Yeah.
what? So I'll have to find that because
Sure.
it was really funny when I watched it. I'm thinking, wow, because I remember when we were aging up and we would see like we had our own lingo,
Yeah.
and then like all the boomers would
Yeah.
be like, what are they
What the hell
saying?
are they saying?
But now we're the fucking old people.
Yeah. I don't think we're old.
Jarrod, you had to go to the chiropractor for your back today.
That's true.
But Jarrod did also find out he has scoliosis. So
Oh, great. Why don't you just tell everybody I'm still dealing with myself. I don't know who I am anymore.
you're an open book, man.
All right. Let's get into what we're talking about tonight.
Okay, so tonight we are talking about all things therapy. Not to be confused with our therapy episode regarding autism. This is more so in relationship to our personhood, our psychological well-being, and our relationships that we have with other people. So individual therapy and couples therapy. We've both been in, done both of them. Couples therapy was new to both of us.
We're in it
What?
right now.
Yeah, we are in couples therapy right
Yes.
now. But we just thought we could talk a little bit about not only our experience while in therapy, what we've learned from it, what's worked for us, what hasn't, but also, our perceptions before going into therapy. I would love us to like debunk things that maybe people have some stigmas around. And then we'll kind of just see where the conversation flows.
Cool.
Is that
Let's
cool?
do it.
Okay. Well, you go first.
No,
I'll go first.
Okay. That's what she said.
That is a nice thing. Okay. So my first question is, and the reason why I wanted to go first was because if you know me and you're listening to this, you know that I have a psychological background in regards to both having a PhD in clinical psychology while also having two parents who are therapists and being an only child.
That's the key kicker,
So-
is the only child piece.
Yes. So I have been in feelings and have been in EQ for my whole life, right? But then specifically understanding more like a therapeutic practice later in my 20s. So the reason I wanted to bring this up to you and ask this question first is because I already had kind of a foundation, a base, right? I'd love to know first, like, when was the first time you went to therapy? And why don't we start there? When was the first time you went to therapy?
First time I went to therapy, I was in San Diego.
You didn't go as a kid at all?
No, never went as a kid.
Never went as a kid?
Never went as a kid. So first one was after 30, beginning of my 30s. First time I had a therapist.
Online? In person?
Yeah, the lady I had in San Diego. It was during the pandemic. And I had her, we were virtual. She was in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah, she was
remember that.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then because I was moving,
Yeah, she could.
she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Which maybe she couldn't now. Yeah, because her license is in California.
Right.
She can't. So
Right.
I was disappointed in that. She was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She did. She definitely helped you. I remember bring some like connections, like initial pieces.
Yeah.
So your first experience with therapy was one, virtual, and two, was not until you were an adult.
Yeah, after 30. Yeah.
And then you went to therapy after you had started your personal development journey. Yes?
Yes. I think that helped a lot because I think before, if I went to therapy, it would have been really challenging. Like the kind of stuff that they do in therapy or I was exposed to was going back and making connections between past experiences and where you are now, but most importantly, getting really in touch with emotions. And that's not something I was good at prior to doing the work I did personally, like the personal development work. So I think I got there at the right time because I was like right after the year of Jarrod, as we've talked about before. Like I was really in a good spot, been meditating, writing, just doing the work, cutting old beliefs, making connections, like really diving into my past. And then I got to a point where there was things I wanted to tackle and I couldn't do it through, I realized I couldn't do it through personal development. Like the next steps, which are some deeper things that I needed to dive into and I wanted to explore. And I didn't think personal development could, how I was trying to do it wasn't working. So obviously knowing therapy's probably that place to go. And obviously you encouraged me a lot because you saw that you knew I needed it as well. Yeah, so I think that was the right time after all the work I'd done. It wouldn't have been as beneficial. I wouldn't have been as open and vulnerable because I didn't know how for stuff, and I probably would have been scared to. Where when I got to that point, I was an open book at that point. Like,
yeah.
I would say anything and everything.
So, curious, what was your perceptions about therapy before your personal development journey?
I don't think I had any because no one ever asked.
But like you saw it in the movies, or you like heard that people were in therapy. Like...
Yeah, I don't think I had any. Lily, there's nothing. I don't think I had perceptions going in.
Okay.
I mean, my perception was you go and sit on a couch. Like it was.
But like, did you think, okay, therapy is when I'm actually feeling really lost. I need to have someone help me. Like I can't do this on my own.
And I think once I got to again, nothing came up. I was before personal development. Like the person I was is very different. Like caught in my own head and all those things, and all I cared about was having a good time, being seen, right? Probably drinking and doing stuff more than I should have been. So I don't even think it was even an idea. And then I obviously hit a point where I had to get into that personal development stuff, and I started there. But I don't think I had a negative perception or a positive perception. I just didn't even think about it. Didn't think I needed it. Didn't even think, it wasn't even in my awareness, therapy at all.
I think it's really great the point that you brought up about all that you did prior to going. I don't think there's a specific order for anyone. I think it speaks to people when it needs to, but for you particularly, and you know, as we've entered couples therapy, what's really fascinating, when we'll spend more time in couples therapy later, but I want to just touch on this point, is that you did all this personal work and then you were going to therapy. I went to therapy for a while with PPD after Jake was born in 2020, but I wasn't doing personal work yet. I was still like in my feedback loop, right? And so it wasn't until 2023, fall of 2023, that I literally I hit the gas pedal and went.
Yeah. And you went first on personal development.
So that's what I'm about to say, is that what I'm saying is I went into personal development in 2023. Mm-hmm. Even though I had been in therapy several times before that, and they were fixing the problem in the moment, providing relief, providing support. But it wasn't until 2023 when I was doing personal work alongside of finding the right therapist that really helped me break free from a lot of those things. So then what I think is really fascinating is the timing, is because I did all that personal work, then we were ready to go to couples therapy. Mm-hmm. Whereas we had brought up couples therapy for years. And again, nothing horribly is happening. It's just that we were having things that we needed more. How would you say it?
I would say the same things keep coming up.
Yes, that's right.
And we didn't know. We would just,
we were in the same cycle.
Yeah, but the same things would
conflict.
We'd react the same way.
Yeah.
And then we're like, this just can't be it.
Right. But in the younger years, earlier years of our relationship and marriage, we would bring up couples therapy, but it was not something that we really pursued. We didn't, it wasn't the time. But I think because of not only the work that you've done, but also the work that I've done, it brought us to this place of like, okay, I know I'm at this point, and there's this next thing that I need to get to in order to get to where I really want to go. And I know that reading these books and watching YouTube of TED Talks is not going to be enough.
Yeah, personal development is more than that. It's when you listen to those TED Talks or podcasts, then you have, like, I take notes, I sit back, reflect on it, I write on it. That's putting it into action. Personal development to me isn't just listening to a bunch of things. That's just learning. But until you apply knowledge, you don't know it. So that wasn't what I was saying. Also, my point is, by doing the individual work, I feel like it's making, and I don't know if this is true, because I know some people can get into therapy, but it feels like it's making it not work fast, but because we're just ready to go there.
Yeah.
Like, we're not back, because I think couples therapy probably initially starts breaking down the individual people so they can actually get to the point of having the open dialogue and vulnerable conversations. But we already had that, so I think that, I don't know, let's
sped it up.
But we were ready
For sure. She even said
I
that
think
to
she's
us.
probably like, we're just going there. Like we weren't.
When she
apprehensive.
she said that to us, that we'd already had done a lot of that foundational work.
And that's why I think that's why it helps. And I'm not saying you can do it the other way. It's just, it actually helps, like, if you focus on your individual self, because now we can articulate our beliefs and our feelings better because we've done the work.
Right.
So when we need to communicate that now, it's easier.
Yeah, it's easier.
And we can connect to it more.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that helped for sure.
Yeah.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Based off what you said earlier, like your background and having two parents, and since you were two, being asked how you feel and know your emotions, and then being a doctor in psychology, because it still took you a lot. You've always been an advocate of therapy, but did it really young, and then it took a long time after that. What was your, I guess, perception after your first experience, then growing up with two parents? What was your experience and view of therapy at that point? Because we came from totally different places of not even top mind to it. That's all you know is therapy. So what was your perception?
Well, I first went to therapy as a kid. My mom would have her friend who was a therapist work with me on specific things like behavior issues or acting out or just making poor decisions. And it was therapy wasn't to heal. It was to fix. And that's how I grew up feeling, was that everything was to like be fixed. This is like more like critical.
In the moment.
Yeah. So I saw, and then like I also saw a lot of psychiatrists because of medication needs for ADHD and depression and so forth. And so I really never enjoyed it ever. And there was a few people, like I was very depressed in high school. I really just felt really out of place. Like I just really struggled with stuff. And now knowing everything about myself, it makes complete sense. Yeah. So I have this vision of myself sitting right now with this blonde older woman. I think her name was Barbara. And it sucked. I felt really misunderstood. And knowing the type of therapy that actually works with me now, it makes sense why the kind of modality that she was using, or in many of these people, didn't work. So I went into my young adulthood with a negative viewpoint, one, and then two, I grew up with two parents who were therapists. So there was a part of me that I think believed that I was above it, or that I already know this. I got it. I also have had a very close relationship with my parents where I could call them for refuge when I was struggling, and they knew a lot.
So you had an outlet.
I had an outlet, and I had two people who were giving me therapy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until college that I had a wonderful, amazing, dynamic therapist, my only male therapist I've ever had, who helped me through some really, really hard times, who shared with me that actually the boundaries that I had with my parents were not healthy. But he was great. So that started the process of, there's more out there. And then I had a couple different therapists when I was going through PPD. And I think just one. Just one in San Diego. She was okay until she wasn't. It was time to like graduate. She helped me in the moment dealing with the overwhelm of being in a pandemic and having a newborn and like finding my identity. Yeah. So it was a patch. But this one specifically, finally, I found two. I found both our couples therapist and then my individual therapist were honestly life-changing.
Yeah, they're great.
Really.
Heart and Star are great. Heart and Star.
Heart and Star.
So
that's not their real names.
No real names here.
No.
Okay, so let's get into first individual therapy.
Yeah.
What you learned through Heart, which we've talked about in other episodes. You've written about it.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting. I kind of did it myself without knowing.
Yes,
without
you did.
knowing it.
Yes.
Like I learned it through personal development.
Right.
To like label parts. So talk about IFS. What is it?
Yeah. Well, first off, most of the therapy that probably Jarrod and I both had gone into was cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It's still a very effective therapy for a lot of different reasons.
I mean, to me, it's a lot of personal development work. It's rewriting the stories and the thoughts in your head and rewriting them. And
Yeah, no, it's a very effective. Yeah. I feel that it only went so far for me. I needed something to really shake up the system. Yep. And so I went through a completely new modality. She was an IFS, which is internal family systems therapist. I had no idea that's what she was. She was highly recommended in regards to postpartum and after Sydney. And I really loved her background. So internal family systems therapy is based in this idea. It was developed by Richard Schwartz. And the idea is, think of the movie, Inside Out, and how Riley has a bunch of parts in her mind, and they all represent a different emotion within Inside Out. But within us, in IFS, we have these different parts, or we call them like subcategories, subparts that have been created based off of their need at different times of our life, or based off of
everything that's ever happened to you,
trauma, all those things,
anything that's ever happened to you.
So, she taught me to label these different parts. She would call out when I would be saying certain things. She would call out what these were, and so then it was my job to then label them. Yep. So I have grinder, scout, scribble, shade, and self. Yep. And they've been really helpful with identifying who is in the driver's seat, and then being like, because a lot of these parts, they move into the driver's seat in front of self because at one time in our life, they needed to be in the driver's seat. They got us to where we are. Yeah. And then we get to a place when we've done the personal work, we're in therapy, maybe we're in a really solid place in life, that self can tell those parts, thank you so much. I really appreciate all that you've done, and you can take the day off. Yeah, like you can go sit. You can go sit in the past. Well, you need them.
Yes, you need them.
You still need them.
Yes.
Nothing.
I'm not going to go away.
We don't want to rid anything.
No, it's not taking. I told you. How do I take advantage, knowing who they are and what they're capable of? How do I pull them up when I need them? Like Grinder, when I need to get shit done.
Yeah. So let me explain them. There. So is a perfectionist. She is speed. Ruthless. She's very ego-driven, image-driven, high expectations, and she was built for me in an overcompensation of inadequacy and inferiority feelings built from ADHD as a child. Yep. Then Scout came later. She's anxiety, and I love to think of her so Grinder. I like to think of as Miss Trunchbull. That's what she looks like to me. Like she's always pointing the finger. And then Scout is that tiny little person from The Incredibles with the short black hair and the glasses. There's this image of her with these huge binoculars. That's how I envision Scout, as this tiny little thing that is always on the lookout for danger. So Scout is based in anxiety and wanting to protect me. And so something that I really struggle with is happiness anxiety. So everything's going really wonderful. And then it's like this slap in the face that don't be too happy because it'll go away. Yeah. That's Scout jumping in. And then Scribble is ADHD. It's pretty self-explanatory. But it's also to remind me that Scribble is still a mark. It is still something. It is not just...
that's the newest one for you.
Scribble. Well, no, Shade is.
Shade is, but Scribble came when you really got...
Well, yeah, so this is the year Jarrod had this is year of Jarrod. I wouldn't call this the year of Nikki in terms of peak.
It's the year of ADHD.
Yeah, it's the year of acceptance of your ADHD. So Scribble came, and having Scribble recognizing that has been really powerful. And then Shade is depression. And so when she comes, she came the other day. I was driving and I was like, I feel shady. She is here. And sometimes it's really hard to pull myself out. But I'm not going to go into so much more detail about those. But the point being is that having them as characters and being able to speak to them, it creates a real tangible experience. And, I'm in my head and I'm like, Scout, shut the fuck up. There's nothing dangerous here. Everything is fine. You can relax.
And once they're the key to that, which I always learn in doing that, is that they're not you. They're a piece of you, or a part of you, but self is you, like the true you.
Yeah.
But now you've been able to separate and not, a lot of us think our thoughts are who we are.
Yeah.
But they're not. Our thoughts and now that you label them as specific people, are there for moments for you to protect you, and that's how they were built. And so, but underneath that, now that you're aware, the self that's aware that the others exist, now you can stop those cycles of those thoughts coming in, right? And like going, whoa, what's going on here? Like, shape, what's up, right? And talk and have a conversation. It doesn't mean that it goes away.
No.
But it
It's
stops
definitely
it.
well, it's definitely helped my processing speed beyond writing, which is like the golden thing that like always helps. Having these parts helps me process things quicker, right? Like, oh, that was a scribble thing. And like, as you just said, not internalize it like it was something I did, but it was more so like, that's a part of me and I'm aware of that. Like, for example, I noticed that this is actually the stillest that I've ever felt sitting in this chair while we record. And why is that?
Self's here.
No, because I have a accommodation, which is a hair band that I'm playing with. And it's like Jake's, like a Chewy, right? So in my head, instead of it being like, oh my God, you can't sit still, like you have a problem, it's like, oh, Scribble needs some support when she's sitting here. So it's just things that, for me, it's a real tangible experience. I sometimes find for my brain, particularly like abstract things, or like, I remember being in CBT therapy and being like, can you give me an example of like what you mean by like rephrasing this? Where this, I can have a conversation. And I have always been a person, I have a very large imagination, and I've always felt like I'm in a movie. And so this provides even more of that kind of character. Inside Out is literally my favorite movie of all time. Like, it is just like the best. And then I can't wait to see this next one. But anyways, so IFS, I'm not going to go into any like technical scientific things about it. I wish I had that book still that our therapist gave us, and I can link it. But it has been the most life-changing therapy for sure. I coupled with the therapist that I had, but I was also ready to receive it. Like there was a lot of pieces, but it would be what I like highly recommend for anybody. Well, that was a lot of scribble chatting. No, but I would love to know, like, what your individual therapy experience, like, how did you said that there was like some connections that she helped you make. Was there like a specific modality that she was using, or like?
I believe it was probably CBT or anything, but I think the biggest benefit I got, two things. You know, I was really honest. Like, I feel like I'm not connected to my emotions. I, don't know where I feel it, in my body. And then I think, so it was one of those things I asked, I wanted to do that, like be able to label emotions better, notice it better, before it got to my head. So I could just just be aware of what I was feeling and just my emotions. And I think in general, because I had a really hard time connecting with those. And then, I think it was the biggest pieces were like, I'm a very logical and I love problem solving and analytical thinker. So I was really quickly able to start making connections between things, between experiences from childhood or my past or anything in my life that is manifested in today. Like the challenges I'm talking about with my therapist, and then she starts, we talk about everything in your past and all those things. And then she, then I'm like, oh, there it is. That's the thing. That's why that shows up, or that's why I act that way, or I'm uncomfortable there, or have fear there. So I love that stuff. Because then I feel like, oh, now that I'm aware of it, I can do something about it. Not necessarily do something about it, but now I always talk about the gap. Like before, I would just let it take over and not maybe to understand where it's coming from and more importantly, what happened out there that triggered that, and then go, okay, that triggered that because of that thing in the past, and then I could start working on that thing and understanding why that had so much impact on me. So that, and then just, I knew fear, stress, and I had a few emotions I could label. So I think getting better at then it helped me communicate with you, just to help communicate in general what I was feeling. Or sometimes I get stuck. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm, you know, or I just didn't allow myself to. And I think it's easier to allow yourself to feel when you know what those feelings are. So I think that helps.
Can you walk me through like something comes, I just don't know what it feels like, or like to not know how you feel. And you're saying there was a really hard disconnect. So can you just like walk me through, you know, something happens and how that impacts you? Like what happens for you?
You like,
give me like an example of like something, maybe it's a world event. Maybe it's something that happens at work. I don't know.
I think I can feel physically in my body, right? You feel that fear or anxiety comes on, but then it goes to my head and starts building the story up in my head, right? And I'm not really connecting back down to where's that showing, you know, that actually helps you separate the thought, slow the thoughts down a little bit. You go, oh, whoa, like, oh, I feel it in my throat, you know? Well, that's interesting. Like, then you can start, and then it pulls you out real quick to go, and then you can typically go to, what just happened? Like, why did that do that, right? So you're trying to, by going into your body, it's getting out of your head. So then you can go and, feel that, go, oh, that's interesting. And then you typically what I do, and I think probably a lot of people do, goes, why did I feel that way? Like, based off what just happened versus building the story up.
Yeah.
So it kind of creates the gap and becomes kind of more unbiased look at it, like an outsider's view. It's like, oh, I didn't have that emotion before, now I have it. So both exist. The not having it before and having it now, and then, so like when I get, you know, anxious, or it's, you know, my stomach, so I know now, so then I can first label it and go, oh, that's okay, I'm anxious about something. What just happened, versus going and building a reason or a story in my head. So yeah, because for me it goes, and I think I'm interested because I think your therapist talked to you about this. It's like, because you think you're like, you can know your emotions really quickly, you probably go head faster.
Only head fast.
Yeah, and maybe
I don't feel in my body at all.
Yeah,
I'm like the opposite of you.
You don't pay awareness to it because you feel like you know it already.
Yes,
but maybe.
No, I think I should totally listen to my body. I think actually something I'm really trying to work on is to slow down.
Yep.
Is my processing speed for so many things, and then saying how I feel when really that may not actually. It may be the cognitive expression of the way I feel, but it could be the underlying, whether it's, you know, pain or sadness, right? Rather than me being like, I'm feeling this, it could be really something else if I was to pay attention to my body. But I haven't, I had one therapist when we lived in Pacific Beach who did somatic work, and I was just not ready to receive any of it. I thought it was a bunch of crock of shit. I remember being like, I don't want to fucking do this. Like, I want to have a conversation. Like, this is going to not do anything for me.
I think
I wasn't ready to receive that. But I've also had a couple experiences with working with coaches that have done more of a body awareness type of experience. And I think two things. One, it comes down to trust for me around physical, manifestations of these things. And then the second thing is being accepting of it myself. So I've done some physical work with heart. She'll say something like, you know, do you like, how would you feel if we were to like check in and see where this is in your body and like just do a little exercise? She'll have me close my eyes and like we'll walk through it. But because of the relationship with her, I also think she's credible AF, that I'm going to be like, all right, I'll fucking try it. And she's also helped me do all this other work. So I'm going to be like, she knows what she's doing. Yeah. But
it's not the only thing. So the other thing that really helped me is realizing if something external happens to us, we'll feel in our body before it gets to our head. Internally, we can think something to make it go to our body.
Okay. So that's very interesting.
And if you can label it in your body and be aware.
Can you give me an example?
So, you get anxious when you read something on the news.
Yeah.
Right? So if something external comes in, you're going to have a physical sensation
like
first.
Your heart drops.
Yeah. Before it gets to your head.
Yeah.
So we feel in our bodies first. So that's also, if you can be aware of your body, you can be like, oh, anxiety is about to come on. it slows it down before it gets to head, and then the cycling starts going through.
So then what do you do?
But then because you have that pause and awareness, you know it's coming, and then you can start going, okay, why is this bringing this up for me versus judgment, all the stories you're building in your head. It just helps you be aware. Internally, though, we can think something to make us feel a certain way, but the external things always start in our body, because by the time it gets to our head, all those beliefs that we have is the perspective you're going to walk through with whatever external thing happened. But if you go to your body first, it is what it is. I feel it in my stomach. So it helps separate it for me to be aware and then knowing, oh, something just happened that made me feel this way. It's now I'm aware here versus aware here. And it helps move through it faster.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Cool. So let's get into our therapist and our therapy, which is really a lot what we just talked about. It's a good transition point because it's really having us talk about our feelings a lot. So we go to couples therapy. We do EFT. Emotionally focused therapy. Started by Dr. Sue Johnson, which she's awesome and amazing. She was. She has since passed. She did pass. She can still be awesome. She is awesome. She's still awesome. Away. Amazing. She passed in April this year. So why don't you tell us what emotionally focused therapy is?
So emotionally focused therapy helps couples to build strong, healthy relationships. And what I know that a big part of this is about rekindling emotional and physical bonds that can get sacrificed for so many different reasons, like parenthood or, career change, like a lot of different things that happen as we continue to evolve in our partnerships. And I've read before that it's constantly evaluating, reevaluating, reconfiguring, really re-registering a lot of our words of of like where are you in your dance with your partner alongside of like where is your partner at and understanding where they're at. So
I'd say, and then just to me, basically it's like emotionally focused therapy. It's what we just talked about. Like if you're an individual, it's going in when those experiences or the things happen, how do you feel? Where does it show up for you? And then being able to express it, right? And then for us, it's being able to connect our emotions to experiences that we're having as a couple or as individuals, mostly as individuals in a relationship, and then be able to verbalize. She says, can you say that to Nikki? Like actually share what's going on inside. Like first you share it with a therapist. Right. She creates the space. She's like, can you turn to her and say that same thing? So then it's building that connection.
And what's interesting is some of the things that we say to one another are things that we've already said to one another.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a difference. So saying in the room within therapy.
Why is there a difference?
Because it's a facilitator's there?
No, because the facilitator prior to me sharing that made a connection from something to why that's showing up versus I didn't have that connection before when I said it.
Yeah.
So it's harder for you to understand.
Yeah.
But because she helped us or me at that moment make a connection and you to hear it.
Yep.
And you go, oh, that makes sense.
Right.
And then I share it with you more open and it makes it validates it a little bit more.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
So that's what she does.
Apparently there's a 9-step model of restructuring the attachment bond between partners.
We'll put it in the thing.
No, I'm just curious what step we're on.
Yeah, we should look that up. I think we're like 6.
I don't know. But I am really interested in knowing.
Yep.
The first stage is stabilization, so the assessment and de-escalation phase. The second one is restructuring the bond, changing the interaction position phase. Stage 3 is the integration and consolidation. And there's a really interesting thing I was reading that there's some there's some integration with family systems there.
Oh, that makes sense.
Well. So, not to be confused with individual or internal family systems. But anyways, we have enjoyed it. What do you think would be important for people to know about couples therapy? One thing that comes to mind is you don't have to go when you're in crisis. When we went to therapy, we were not going because we were on the brink of divorce. We were going because of the same thing kept popping up. we were not getting out of the cycle.
Yep.
And that's where we went. And it's been really helpful with communication, really helpful with understanding our cycles and where. So this is actually interesting about EFT. So it's in an infinity symbol. And so you can think about it.
Which is our sign, babe.
Is it?
Yeah, we're like an infinity. Remember I always said we're like an infinity sign.
Oh, that is really true. Wow, it's meant to be. He's like, eyes got so big. Each side of the infinity symbol is a partner. So partner one is on one side and brings their own stories, their own experience.
I want to know.
Always me.
Got it.
The second, you're a Libra. I'm an Aries.
Okay.
So it means that I'm just the boss.
Got it. I'll let you continue to think that. Sydney's the boss. Let's be real.
Yeah, Sydney owns this whole household.
She's the boss.
We're just all led by a tiny dictator.
Yep.
So each partner has their own stories, experiences that they're bringing to the table, especially when a conflict arises, right? So that's something also that we've been doing with an EFT is understanding our own storyline or where these things are coming from, our own insecurities, all these different.
How they show up in our relationship.
And how they show up. So understanding that has then been helpful with the communication piece and within conflict. Because, for example, I'm a person who tends to be more animated and more, I guess, vocal when it comes to...
That's a nice way to say it.
I yell a lot. I don't know what I was going to say.
I thought this was real, Nikki. We're being vulnerable here.
I get, like, heated. I'm an Aries, like I just said. I get heated. So, and Jarrod tends to retreat and withdraw. But this would then only exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, true. I think this started out with you asking me a question, and then... So, do you remember what you were asking
That's
me?
what I was going to ask. I was going to say, what do you think people should know about EFT? And then I answered it. And now
you said about couples therapy.
I mean, yeah, about couples therapy in general.
I just think the first thing that came to mind, because I was thinking about it while you were going on your rant. It's like, I think we're going to come back to this, so I have time. Was just you're growing up as individuals, and all these huge moments happen in a relationship that you're not prepared for. You're not prepared for financial stuff in a relationship or having kids or all this,
Death.
like not that, just you see death? There's Scout again.
I was thinking like family members.
No, I'm just saying, like, you're not prepared. Like, you're most of the time in your 20s, still don't even know the hell who you are.
Yeah.
You're growing as an individual. You're in a relationship. All these big moments are happening in your life, and you change. But when have you ever sat and just talked about that with your partner? Like, how are we different now? Like, how have these things impacted you?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't have those conversations.
No.
So then you don't communicate with it because life just goes so fast and so many things happen. So
that's the point of the rekindling piece.
yeah, I think the thing about therapy is, like, it's just this time to take a pause and slow down. And early on in a relationship, most of us aren't sharing everything. And probably we don't even know, like, what all those things are and how they're going to show up for me. You're trying to you're trying to lure that person in. Right. So you're going to say all the things that's going to lure that person in.
Totally.
And then you get in your flow, and then you become a relationship, and you think you know everything about each other prior to, because we have all these conversations. And there's probably some really good ones. Like, we had great conversations early on, but
they're better now.
Yeah, but we've grown as individuals, so our thoughts and thinking and all this has changed.
Yeah.
But we're still operating the same way we've always operated, even though all these big things have changed. And we never, there's no class. There's nothing there. So you're going to, obviously, I feel like, have more conflict because that stuff isn't we're not talking about like we used to or didn't even get to before, because now we're just in this thing. And so I think that's been the biggest help. And having a third party is because our cycles and the way we go, we're not going to stop ourselves and go, man, we're in it, or right. But she does that, and she can provide a perspective of whoa, like, she'll stop us mid, and we're just talking. It's like, I need to hone in on that right there. Well, we would never have stopped to hone in on that moment, but she finds it, and then it goes down, and that becomes, sometimes the whole session goes off of that one thing, and that thing could happen the first 10 seconds, and then that's the whole session, and it's like, we would have never got to there without her seeing that. We would have never saw that. So that's been huge.
Are you uncomfortable in session?
Not at all.
I have been until recently.
Yeah, I was never uncomfortable. I mean, there's moments.
So like when things come up
Like
that are really
going
vulnerable?
to therapy and sharing does not make me uncomfortable.
Okay.
I think it's when I have to go to some uncomfortable places that makes it uncomfortable. But the thought of going, like, I'm excited to go to therapy every week because I like talking about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's just
And I love making the connections for myself and for us. Like, because I know we can go, once we know, it becomes better and we're aware and everything's going to get better personally and as, in a relationship. Like, I know that. I have proof. Did the personal development, made some changes, it got better. Oh, so I want to find as many things. That's why I try to continue to dive into as many things as possible. Like, what else is out there that can help me? And therapy is just another tool. Especially in a relationship, I think everyone should go to couples therapy.
I agree.
I don't care if you could be the best relationship ever. There's still opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And why not? It's the most important relationship, second most important relationship
Besides
you'll ever
yourself.
have.
I totally agree with you.
And you live with that person. More stuff's going to come up
Yeah.
because more life's going to happen to us.
Yep.
We should know how to communicate
I
and
know.
know how we operate together as individuals and then as a relationship. So it's been the best.
I totally
love
agree.
It.
I
get
know.
energized. I love it. I love going to it.
Yeah, I think it's proven itself over and over and over again how
Yeah.
valuable
And you got to
it is.
be ready.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, I think the individual
You
stuff.
can't have like one person want to go, the other person like.
I mean,
Unless
a
you're in, like,
good-
crisis.
But a good therapist will get you there.
But like,
Because
yeah.
I think we haven't had as many separate one-on-ones with her, but I think because how we came in, she didn't need that as much. But I would anticipate maybe another relationship that it wasn't where ours was. It is a big moment and it's a big trauma. It's a peak moment in your relationship where things aren't really good and there could be, we're thinking about divorce. That she'd probably do some more individual stuff. I think that would make sense in this setting because if people are blocked in that moment, it's going to be really hard. Like, that's such a skill she has to do it as a therapist of one.
I know.
But I never feel like she's neglecting me.
Oh no, I never feel that
Like,
way.
she always brings it back.
Well, I feel like, see, like, even if she's focusing on like something for you and not me, I actually feel like she's doing me
Yes.
huge favor because it's something that is really important that
And
you
it has
could
to do with
unearth.
our relationship.
Exactly.
Why she's going down.
No,
there.
I never feel like
Yeah.
I know, and I always will bring it up. Like I will say something, and she always checks back in with one of us. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah.
So no, she is skilled.
Yeah. But I love that the best part about it, which I don't know if that's all couples therapy, but particularly I guess EFT, is when you are connected and make a connection and tie it with your emotions, is to share that. Not just, oh, you made the connection yourself, it's over. It's like, no, now share that with your partner and share that way. And you get to look at each other and share vulnerability in that moment, which to me, means, oh, then I can go do that. I don't have to always be in this setting to do that. And hopefully that becomes the way we talk and connect to ourselves. And yeah, we still, like the other night when we did the episode, we got in it, but that as we said, we moved really quickly through it and we're aware of what was happening and slowed ourselves down a little bit. So yeah, I think that, and I think even tonight, it, had a little, wasn't a thing, but it didn't even go to anything, but it was just immediately into the way we talk, pretty quickly into the way that we talk and be open and vulnerable and not defensive, not putting our guard up, not being too loud, or just like really just like, prodding, right? Like that. And me putting my defenses up and going silent. It was just a great conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So it translates into and being in a relationship, that's the one person you can be your full self,
right,
and should be able to, like, we're
if
in it
the
every
right
day. We're in it every day together. Like, this is your person. We sleep next to each other. Like, you gotta
except when you snore.
Yeah, except when I snore or my back hurts when I go downstairs. But you gotta be able to, like, just share. Like, I relate to, like, what I said to Sydney the other day. Like, out in the world, I'm Sydney and I'm great, no problems at daycare. And then she gets home and she's an emotional wreck because she feels safe.
Oh yeah.
And she can be herself because we're that to her. So we got to have that I can be just blah because you accept me. Right. And that's what I've had to overcome is the acceptance of what I see maybe sometimes as flaws, or, you know, sharing emotions or thoughts that I have, not being judged, being accepted and still loved and open, that you just, all you care is that I'm sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It makes everything better.
It does.
It really does.
I mean, say it, sex life, it makes everything better. It makes our kids and our relationship with our children.
Everything's better.
Everything's
with
better.
Communication.
Yeah. I mean, you always say it. Like, that would change the world.
Yeah.
It would change every relationship. Everything in the world would be changed by open, honest, vulnerable communication.
Yep. I wish we could like teach people how to do that.
We can.
Maybe one day. Well, that's enough for us this evening.
Yeah.
Is there any last words?
No. And I think, obviously, you can tell we're pro-therapy, but we're pro-therapy for the right therapist. I think just to navigate my biggest challenge, and I didn't say this earlier, it was just overwhelming to know that I had, like, because I knew what I needed to do. Because you told me, it's like, you got to go just, like, randomly look at a list and start calling people. And then you have to talk to all these people and share a little bit of yourself every time you talk to that person. And they all kind of sound good in the beginning. But, like, I knew a few times, like, no, that's not going to work. But then you might have a fast session or two and not working. And I think you have to be okay to be like, this isn't working. I got to go find someone that works, and not discount therapy because of that experience. But no, there are wonderful therapists.
I also want to say something to that effect. I'm actually really glad you brought it up. So heart is actually the opposite of what I thought I would need and want. But she's actually exactly what I need and want. And what I mean by that is, I used to believe I needed someone who's like challenging, like say it how it is, be really straight up, like all that. When actually where I'm working on in all areas of my life is softening and slowing. And that's exactly what she does.
Yeah.
And it's been really, really helpful.
And so does Star.
That's what I meant, Star.
Well, I think your other therapist
Both
was
of
that
them
too.
the same.
Yeah, so I
Both
mean,
the same.
Your first one was that way, and that's why
Star
works so well. Because
Yeah.
she's like probably the most emotionally intelligent human being I've ever met, and just with you and feels it with you. I'm like, this is crazy. So yeah, we're proponents.
If you have questions about this, reach out to us. We'd love to help you out. If anything we can do, give you any direction or any support. As always, you can find us on Instagram or in our email. We really appreciate emails that have come in regards to how the episodes are impacting you, as well as things that you are needing help with. So thank you for trusting us with that. Thank you for your time tonight or today or whenever you're listening to this. And go eat the peach cobbler.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
It's delicious. Cool.
Bye.
Night, Nick.